Guys, welcome back to Between the Ropes TV. As always, before we get started, make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel. It's a bit of a strange one, this one. Obviously, it was a massive fight, wasn't it? And what last night, and what a beast we saw from Crawford. I mean, the 10th round stoppage. There was a few clash of heads as well. The first, of course, the third round coming caused damage to Porter's eye, wasn't it? In that third round, but I mean, we're not going to talk about the fight today and what's going to happen in the future for Crawford, because we're actually going to speak about Porter. Might have been a bit of a shock for some, but after his defeat last night, he, of course, announced his retirement from boxing. And what more can you say about this guy? A two-time champion. I think he's going to have to go down as one of the Hall of Famers. An interesting one, isn't it? It's going to cause debate, that is, because I think when you look at his resume and you're looking at his losses, I've just got a couple of them up on screen now. Obviously losing to Kell Brook. He's also lost to Keith Thurman, which was probably the shock of them all, wasn't it, really? That loss there. And then, of course, picking up a loss against Terence Crawford as well. Interestingly, going through his record, his only other loss, I knew there was one more, of course, Errol Spence Jr. So it's an interesting one, isn't it, when you talk about Porter? When he wasn't against the best of them, he picked up the wins. Impressive record of 31 wins to his name, and 17 of those coming by KO. But possibly when he come into the ring with the best of them, the best of the rest, he didn't quite have it. But you know, the losses on his resume make him a real, still for me a real big name in the sport of boxing, and someone that should go down in the Hall of Fame too. It's an interesting one, actually. The news that has come out today, of course, him retiring. You have to wonder what possibly was the reason for that. Well, one thing that his dad actually picked up on, his dad, who was his trainer and, of course, was in the corner with him last night to call the stoppage. He, of course, alluded to the fact that apparently Porter didn't train as well as expected for this fight. Perhaps his heart wasn't quite in it, or maybe perhaps he just didn't really think he was going to be able to stop Crawford. I mean, that was a bit of a shock for myself to hear that he hadn't perhaps dedicated as well as perhaps his father had wanted him to, because this was a massive opportunity and probably the biggest opportunity he was going to get. What can you say about this guy, though? It's the first time he has ever been stopped, and I think it just shows what a beast Crawford is. But maybe there was just that. Maybe there was a true feeling that he knew deep down he wasn't going to win this fight. Maybe it was just a fact of getting that one last payday, which is a shame to see. But you do have to question, don't you, when someone isn't applying themselves, when you've got a massive opportunity, a title opportunity. And let's face it, if he had won last night and got a points victory against someone like Crawford, because I doubt he would have stopped him by KO. I mean, what would that have done for his record and his reputation and just, the way everyone viewed him going forwards? But perhaps it was a case that really his heart wasn't in it. And I think that really shows by the fact of his father's comments saying that he hadn't particularly trained as they wanted. And it's an interesting one, isn't it? I feel it must be frustrating for fighters like Porter, because they're fighters that kind of linger around that top, I mean, let's face it, he's got two world titles to his name. But it does look, especially later in his career, a lot of his losses have come later in his career, haven't they? I mean, going through, he's lost two of his last three, and the other losses coming from the likes of Kell Brook and Thurman also come a bit later on in his career. So you have to wonder if maybe it's just a case of he is retiring at the best time. Perhaps he doesn't quite have it to go in the mix with these top performers now. And you do have to wonder, when you've achieved as much as you can and you feel you can, is there really that motivation there to be going and beating people that you always feel you would have? But one thing you've still got to give this guy his praise. Of course, he's getting wins against the likes of Danny Garcia, wins against the likes of Ugas. But these fighters aren't easy fighters. They're really not. And yeah, I think it is sad to see Porter go out, and it's sad to see him go out in the way that he has by technically a TKO loss. But look, Crawford's a different animal, isn't he? He really is, and the result doesn't shock me. But guys, let us know what you think in the comments. Are you a bit disappointed that Porter has decided to retire? Would you have liked to see him get in the ring again? And if so, who would you have liked him see him go in against? And do you disagree with me? Do you feel that his title days weren't behind him and he perhaps could have once again in the future gone for a title fight? But guys, if you are new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And also make sure, whether you're new here or not, to also hit that like button because it helps out massively. And we're going to be bringing you a lot of content coming next week. So look out for that. And we shall see you on the next one. Goodbye.